The Han Solo sponsor is Christopher DePel. In this video, we'll be learning about the refresh phase, where players prepare for the next round. This is done over a series of steps, which we will go over in detail. First, each player retrieves leaders. They take all leaders from the game board and return them to their leader pool. If a leader is still on a mission card, that leader also returns to the pool, and the card returns to the player's hand. Next, each player draws 2 mission cards to their hand. If a player has more than 10 cards, they must discard down to the hand limit of 10 cards. The next step is to launch probe droids. The Imperial player draws 2 probe cards from the deck. Each of these cards shows a single system where the Rebel base is not located, which helps the player narrow their focus. The Imperial player keeps these cards secret from the Rebel player. After launching probes, the Rebel player draws 1 objective card, which is added to their hand. Before we move on to the next step, let's talk about building units. During the refresh phase, this time marker is advanced. Some of these steps have this build icon, which prompts players to build. The player then finds each system that has loyalty and takes a look at their resource icons. Depending on what resource icons are in that system, the player will be able to build certain units. For example, this system, controlled by the Imperial player, contains this icon. Taking a look at the Imperial board, this icon allows the player to build an @ST. Meanwhile, this same icon would allow the Rebel player to build an airspeeder. The number next to the resource icon indicates what space of the build queue the miniature is then placed on. After each player builds units from all systems, the players slide each unit in the queue 1 space toward the edge of the game board. Any units that slide off the board are then ready to be deployed. Now, let's look at the next step after drawing an objective card, which is to advance the time marker. The marker is advanced 1 space along the track, then players recruit or build if any icons are shown on the new space. If the recruit icon is shown, each player draws 2 cards from their action deck. 1 leader is chosen from those shown on either card, and then placed into the leader pool. For a player's first game, these cards are then returned to the game box, ignoring the abilities on the cards. If the build icon is shown, each player builds 1 unit matching each resource icon in loyal systems, as shown before. For subjugated systems, the player only uses the leftmost resource icon for building. After building, each player deploys the units that are slid off the queue. The player must place these units in systems that have their loyalty or subjugation markers. A maximum of 2 units can be deployed to each system during this phase. The Rebel player may build units from and deploy units to the Rebel base space as if it were a system. Any system that contains an opponent's unit or a sabotage marker cannot build units, nor can they deploy units to these systems. After deployment, a new game round is begun, starting with the assignment phase. In the next video, we'll look at the Rebel base. The executive sponsor of this series is Gabriel Thorn. The high ground sponsors are ArgetBrisingr Jonasty.